Habari ya asubuhi. Tajaribu kuona Kiswahili changu kama kimerudi au kimepotea. Narudia tena, habari ya asubuhi. Yes. Kwa heshima na taadhima, I'm privileged to stand before you, but let me observe protocols first. Madam President, thank you for your kind words. The Executive Director, Francis, Private Sector Representative from Stanbic. It's really great to see private sector getting into the civil society movement. Private sector, I believe also, or civil society, yes, and Mzee Uto. I am very much honored and privileged to stand before you. Ni kijana wa Kitanzania, nina heshima na taadhima kwa Watanzania wenzangu. Wazee mlioko kwenye audience, shikamoni. Vijana wenzangu, habari ya asubuhi tena. Nashukuru sana kusimama mbele yenu. Nasubiri slides, lakini nadhani kazi yangu leo is to set the tone for the week. It's not an easy job. It's not an easy job, but I'll try to do my very best to set the tone for the week, to set the tone for what this whole week will be about. As Francis alluded to, I'm based in Nairobi, Kenya, and I'm leading an organization. Can I get the slides? Clicker? Thank you. Thank you. I'm leading an organization. You can see the logo. It's called Partnership for African and Social Governance Research. It's a Pan-African organization which is operating in over 26 countries in the continent. And we basically focus more on public policy and governance issues. And public policy is broad. Civil societies is one of our anchor partners that we have in the work that we do. So today I'm just gonna try to put together some questions. I would prefer to ask questions. I won't answer all of them. I'll try to provide a little bit of context here and there. But at the same time, I'll leave you with a lot of questions. I like to provoke thinking. I like to provoke, sio ule uchokozi. I hope serikali haitakuja kutuvamia hapa. Uchokozi wa mawazo. People, we have to think. Na kama as a country, we need to think. Last week I was in Mauritius and I attended one of the powerful speech by the Minister of Education from Uganda. And she said this: Africa needs to think. We cannot delegate our thinking to other people. So I believe this conversation, this whole week, is the beginning of that journey. Reflection is part of thinking, and that's why we are thinking. So today I want to talk to you about the uncivil society, and particularly the third sector. Nazungumza kuna serikali, private sector, na azaki, si ndio? Non-state actors, the third sector in development. Why are we here? Why are we convening in Arusha this whole week? To just enjoy per diems and sightsee Arusha and have good time? Okay, perhaps yes, it comes with fringe benefits, right? But I think there's more than that. So I just want to take you through some reflections before I dive into the conversation. And some reflections, because my organization, as I said, it works in different countries in the continent. I just want to lay out what are the bigger issues, what are the policy challenges that the countries in the continent are grappling with. The idea here is to frame the conversation that it's not only in Tanzania, but this is happening in many other countries as well. So this conversation is timely. And we have seen in some countries, citizens have taken matters to the street. In Sierra Leone, in Sri Lanka, we saw they toppled the government because citizens are not happy. So it's indeed, development has to be about people. Without people, there's no development. So a little bit of reflections. Where are we now as a civil society? What are the things that can guarantee our sustainability? I'm just trying to make sure you're able, before I start poking the bear, at least lay the ground of where you are. There are so many things. There are so many things that requires all of us collectively to work together. There are complementarities. Most often you see, and I'll talk about this, and there are conversations in the donor space now ongoing about how do we come together, how do we coalesce ourselves into a more powerful movement as opposed to being individual and self-centered. How do we complement each other? Very important. Why are you here? That's why I asked in the beginning. Why are you in Arusha? What are you doing here? Are you here for your own interests, or are you here for a broader community that you're representing? And I want you to reflect as you continue to engage the whole week. It's very important to reflect. Yes, you are networking. Yes, you are meeting people. But why are you here? What is it that you carry by the end of the week back to where you came from? Very important. All right, so let's come to the real issues in Africa. I used to teach, so I'm just getting into the mode of being in a class. So pardon me if I become too much of a lecturer. It comes naturally. So what are the issues? This is statistics survey that was done by Afrobarometer. And Afrobarometer, for those who know, it surveys citizens, the perceptions about different governance and leadership issues that are happening in the continent. And this is what African are saying about priorities, pressing issues in the community. Number one being unemployment. Of course, 1.4 billion people in Africa, 70% of those are young people under the age of 30. 65% are young people under the age of 25. 40% are young people without employment. Do the math. There's no change that we see in the continent that is not being propelled by young people. Right now, politicians cannot get votes if young people don't vote. It's very true. That's what has happened in Kenya recently. Young people didn't vote. The turnout was very low. And if you ask them, and I had a chance to talk to them, they ask, I don't see the importance. Why do I have to go and vote? For what? I see the same faces, the same names, the same elite structure that seem to perpetuate. They don't seem to help me. I'm still struggling. I work to find and justify means, find livelihood. So we need to think about that. Unemployment is very critical, not only in Tanzania, in the continent. It's a pressing, it's a time-ticking bomb. Young people without jobs. We have a project at PASGR that we are looking into young people's voices, resilience and adaptability post-COVID, where we are doing in 7 countries, in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Senegal, Ethiopia, Uganda, Rwanda, and Kenya. And in all these countries, I've been to speaking to ministers, speaking to young people. Unemployment and challenges that young people are facing seems to be the top in the list. Health, education, infrastructure, water, poverty, all of these, I don't want to go one by one, but I want to emphasize the last one. People are saying democracy, inequality, and political rights. It doesn't seem to be, but it's very important. Civic space, and we'll talk about that. But we understand our economies, we understand the structure of our countries. You know, you can't talk of democracy if you're hungry. You know, you need to feed your tummy first, then you can think about freedom. But anyway, that's a different conversation in a different space. But what I want to, the essence of this slide is just to give you a picture of what are the issues in the continent. What is it that is happening around the continent? And so much so that Tanzania does not feel we are unique in our settings. We are not. These are issues that are happening across the continent, and they're happening in our countries. The question now is, what can civil societies do about it? And I think that's the essence of why we're here in the first place. Okay, what about, let me now shift gear a bit and give you a sense of what are the issues that are happening in East Africa, because we are in East Africa. And by and large, East Africa is doing pretty well in that space. So we have seen movement on social media, conscription of rights, we've seen them. And the question is, as the president put it, how do we engage in co-creation of these laws, because laws are not meant to serve particular individuals. Laws are meant to serve us all as a collective body, as a nation. Laws are not targeted to individuals. Laws are supposed to be targeted to help the country. The question is how engaging the process of developing, building, and creating these laws is. Where are your voices? We don't want to see laws that seem to be skewed toward a certain direction. And I think from where we are and where the world is right now, it's very important. So my point on this slide is just to show you there's a lot you can do, a lot of good that you can do that can bring tremendous change in our communities. This is just an example. How can we hold governments to account? And because we are the third sector, how can we, I am still in that space as well, how can we hold governments to account? But the how is also goes hand in hand with the framing. You know, there's the messaging and the how and the engagement, and then also the culture of debating. I think that I like that's why schools, they have debating programs. I think we need to encourage those. We need to encourage debating because they enhance our ability to not only to speak in front of the public, but to engage and think creatively based on issues and not personalities. Okay? Freedom of speech. This is, I know it's a topical issue. It's not only in Tanzania, it's across the board. How do we allow our citizens to engage and speak and challenge where they see things are not doing okay? And how do we take that power? Because at the end of the day, people have the power. The government, the leaders draw powers from the people.